All right, let's dive into the incredible world of human reproduction. We're going deep, beyond the birds and the bees, to uncover the fascinating science behind how we humans come to be.
It's a journey that begins with a single cell and ends with a fully formed baby. Every step of the way is packed with mind-blowing details and evolutionary wonders.
So let's start with the basics. Humans reproduce sexually, right? We need a male and a female to make a baby.
Exactly. And we're viviparous, meaning those babies develop inside the mother's body.
Okay, so far so good.
Yeah.
But what sets human reproduction apart from other species? What's unique about us?
Well, one big difference is the length of human gestation. We're talking about 9 months of complex fetal development. That's much longer than a lot of other mammals.
9 months, wow.
This extended time allows for more brain development and results in a relatively helpless newborn. Human babies need years of care, which has really shaped our social structures and even played a role in our evolution.
Right from the start, we're seeing how deeply connected human reproduction is to who we are as a species. Fascinating. But let's zero in on the male reproductive system.
Sure. It all starts at the testes. Those often discussed, but maybe not fully understood organs. They're the sperm factories, and they've got some pretty cool adaptations that are crucial for making those sperm.
We all know the testes are, well, located outside the body in the scrotum.
Yeah.
But why is that? It seems kind of vulnerable, doesn't it?
It's all about temperature control, actually. Sperm production needs things a bit cooler than normal body temperature.
Uh-huh.
The scrotum acts like a climate-controlled space, keeping those sperm-making conditions just right.
So it's not about being vulnerable, it's about creating the perfect environment for sperm development. Smart. But what's going on inside the testes?
Inside, you've got these tiny coiled-up tubes called seminiferous tubules. Imagine them like tiny factories churning out millions and millions of sperm. It's a nonstop process that starts at puberty and can go on for decades.
A lifetime supply, basically.
Pretty much. That's a major difference from the female reproductive system, which has a clear endpoint. But we'll get to that later.
Okay, so sperm production is a pretty impressive feat. But let's talk about the sperm themselves for a minute. They're more than just tiny swimmers, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're incredibly complex cells, perfectly designed for their epic journey to find an egg. They have a distinct head, midpiece, and tail, each with a specific job to do.
Okay, break it down for us. What's so special about each part?
Well, the head is where it's at, literally. It carries the genetic material that will combine with the egg's DNA to create a new individual.
The blueprint for a new human.
Exactly. It also has a special structure called the acrosome. Think of it like a tiny chemical warhead that helps the sperm break through the egg's protective layers.
Wow, so it's not just a swim meet, it's a full-on assault. What about the midpiece?
The midpiece is the engine room. It's packed with mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, providing the energy for that long swim to the egg. Only the strongest sperm make it.
Survival of the fittest, even at the microscopic level.
Yeah.
And finally, there's the tail, the propeller.
Right. That tail, or flagellum, is a whip-like structure that propels the sperm forward. It's an incredibly efficient motor, allowing it to navigate the female reproductive tract and hopefully reach the egg.
It's amazing how these tiny parts work together. But here's a question. If it only takes one sperm to fertilize an egg, why are millions released? It seems like overkill.
That's a good point, and it highlights the intense competition involved in fertilization. The journey is tough, and most sperm never even make it to the fallopian tubes.
It's like an obstacle course.
Exactly. Only the strongest and most resilient sperm have a shot at reaching the egg, so releasing a massive number increases the odds of success.
So it's a numbers game, with only the elite few making it to the finish line.
That's fascinating.
Now, let's shift gears and talk about the equally amazing female reproductive system.
Definitely. It's just as complex as the male system, with a vital role in creating and nurturing new life.
Let's start with the basics. We've got the ovaries, which produce the eggs, or ova.
Yes, the ovaries are those almond-shaped organs on either side of the uterus. And they're not just producing eggs, they're hormone powerhouses, secreting estrogen and progesterone. These hormones are crucial for regulating the menstrual cycle and preparing the body for pregnancy.
So the ovaries are multitaskers. But where do the eggs go once they're released?
That's where the fallopian tubes come in. There are these delicate pathways that lead from the ovaries to the uterus, acting as the conduit for the egg's journey.
Like a delicate highway system.
Exactly.
And the uterus, of course, is where a fertilized egg implants and develops. And then there's the vagina, the birth canal.
That's right. But here's a key difference between the male and female reproductive systems. Women are born with a set number of eggs. Unlike men who produce sperm continuously, women have a limited reproductive lifespan that ends with menopause.
That's a fundamental difference. But let's dig into egg development, or oogenesis. How does it compare to sperm production?
Well, oogenesis is more complex and cyclical. Unlike the continuous production of sperm, it's a carefully timed process. It actually begins before birth, with the formation of primary oocytes, those immature eggs that hang out in the ovaries waiting for their turn to mature.
So they're like tiny seeds waiting to sprout.
Yeah,
But what triggers their development?
that's where the menstrual cycle comes in. Each month, hormones signal a few follicles, those tiny sacs within the ovaries, to mature. Each follicle houses a developing egg, and usually one follicle becomes dominant, prepping for ovulation. At the same time, the uterine lining thickens, getting ready to welcome a potential embryo.
The body's preparing on multiple fronts. It's amazing. But how does the body know when it's time to release the egg?
That's all thanks to a surge in luteinizing hormone, or LH. This hormone triggers ovulation, that dramatic moment when the mature egg bursts from its follicle and begins its journey down the fallopian tube.
It's like LH gives the egg the signal to start its adventure.
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up next time as we delve deeper into the menstrual cycle and the incredible events of fertilization and implantation. So we were talking about that egg, all ready to go. But let's zoom out a bit and talk about the menstrual cycle as a whole. It's often, well, misunderstood, but it's actually a pretty amazing example of how our bodies work.
You're so right. It's not talked about enough, even though it's a key part of female biology. So what's really going on during this monthly cycle?
It's all about getting the body ready for a possible pregnancy. The menstrual cycle is driven by hormones, mainly estrogen and progesterone, which cause changes in the uterine lining, ovaries, and other parts of the body.
Estrogen and progesterone, they're like the conductors of this hormonal orchestra. But what are the different phases of the cycle and what happens in each one?
Okay, so we can think of it in four main phases. First, there's the menstrual phase, the one most people associate with the cycle.
Right, that's when the uterine lining sheds, resulting in menstrual bleeding.
Exactly. It might seem like a waste, but it's actually the body's way of hitting the reset button and getting ready for a new cycle.
So it's a fresh start, but what happens next?
Next up is the follicular phase, all about growth and development. Estrogen levels rise, and that stimulates the growth of follicles in the ovaries. Remember, each follicle contains a developing egg. During this phase, one follicle usually becomes dominant, getting ready for ovulation. And at the same time, the uterine lining starts to thicken again, creating a welcoming environment if an embryo is on the way.
So it's preparing the egg and the uterus simultaneously. Amazing. But how does the body know when it's time to release the egg?
That's where a surge in luteinizing hormone, or LH, comes in. This hormonal surge triggers ovulation. That's when the mature egg bursts from its follicle and begins its journey down the fallopian tube.
So LH is like the signal for the egg to start its adventure. Got it. What happens after ovulation?
That's the luteal phase. The ruptured follicle turns into a structure called the corpus luteum, which keeps producing progesterone. This progesterone thickens the uterine lining even more, making it ready for implantation if fertilization happens. But if pregnancy doesn't occur, the corpus luteum breaks down, hormone levels drop, and the cycle starts all over again.
It's like a perfectly timed dance. It really makes you appreciate how intricate the female reproductive system is.
Yeah.
But let's imagine that an egg has been released and millions of sperm are on their way. What happens during this epic race?
Well, it's a perilous journey. Only a tiny fraction of those sperm will even reach the fallopian tube where fertilization happens.
Talk about pressure. What challenges do those sperm face?
Oh, plenty. They have to navigate the acidic environment of the vagina, swim against the flow of fluids, and even avoid attacks from the woman's immune system. It's a true test of endurance.
And don't forget the competition. It's like a microscopic battle royale.
Exactly. But let's say one lucky sperm makes it to the egg, that's when the real magic happens. Fertilization.
Okay, walk us through this magical moment. How does a sperm actually get inside an egg?
Remember the acrosome we talked about? The chemical warhead? It plays a key role here. The sperm uses enzymes from its acrosome to break through the egg's outer layers, particularly a protective layer called the zona pellucida. It's like breaking through a fortress.
So strength and strategy. But what happens once a sperm gets through? Can multiple sperm fertilize an egg?
Nope. Once one sperm penetrates the egg's outer layer changes rapidly, blocking any other sperm from entering. It's a winner-takes-all situation.
Speed is key, too. But what happens once that winning sperm is inside?
Well, the sperm's nucleus, carrying its genetic material, fuses with the egg's nucleus. They combine their DNA, and that creates a zygote, the very first cell of a brand new, unique individual.
A new human life starts from that single cell. Amazing. How does that tiny cell become a fully formed baby?
That's where embryonic development comes in. The zygote starts dividing rapidly, turning into a cluster of cells called a blastocyst. That blastocyst travels down the fallopian tube toward the uterus, where it implants in the uterine lining.
Implantation, the beginning of pregnancy. What happens next? How does that little cluster of cells become such a complex human being?
Embryonic development is truly mind-blowing. The blastocyst goes through a series of transformations, forming different layers that eventually give rise to all the organs and tissues of the body.
It's like a microscopic origami project, each fold creating a new part of the body. Tell me more. What are the key stages?
In those early weeks, the blastocyst differentiates into three primary germ layers: the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. These layers are going to form all the different cell types and organs.
So those germ layers are the building blocks, but what do they actually become?
The ectoderm, the outermost layer, forms things like skin, the nervous system, and sensory organs. The mesoderm, the middle layer, gives rise to muscles, bones, the circulatory system, and the reproductive organs. And the endoderm, the innermost layer, forms the lining of the digestive tract, respiratory system, and other internal organs.
Wow, all our complex organs start from those three layers. It's incredible. But how does the embryo get what it needs to grow, like nutrients and oxygen?
That's where the placenta comes in. It develops during pregnancy, and it's the lifeline between the mother and the fetus.
The placenta. Sounds like something out of science fiction.
It kind of is. It's a temporary organ just for pregnancy, and it does so much. It acts as a nutrient and oxygen exchange system. The mother's blood flows through the placenta, and nutrients and oxygen pass through a thin membrane to the fetus's bloodstream. At the same time, waste products from the fetus are removed through the placenta.
It's like a high-tech filtration system, keeping the fetus healthy and its environment clean. But I've also heard the placenta produces hormones. Is that true?
Definitely. It's a hormone powerhouse. It produces a bunch of hormones essential for keeping the pregnancy going, including estrogen, progesterone, and one called human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG.
Wait, HCG, that's what pregnancy tests detect, right?
Yep. It's produced early in pregnancy by that developing placenta. It signals to the mother's body that she's pregnant. HCG helps maintain the corpus luteum, ensuring that progesterone production keeps going strong.
So HCG is not only a sign of pregnancy, it's essential for the pregnancy itself. Amazing how everything is connected. But tell me more about the fetus's development. What are some key milestones during those 9 months?
The first trimester is all about rapid growth and organ development. By the end of the first trimester, the fetus has a beating heart, developing limbs, and the beginnings of all its major organs.
So much happens so quickly.
Right.
What about the second and third trimesters?
The second trimester is often called the golden period of pregnancy. The fetus keeps growing rapidly, you can start to feel those movements more, and its features become more defined. By the end of the second trimester, the fetus even has eyelashes and eyebrows.
Starting to look like a real baby.
Exactly. The third trimester is all about getting ready for birth. The fetus gains weight rapidly, its lungs mature, and its brain goes through a period of huge growth and development.
It's incredible that all this happens inside a woman's body. But what happens when the fetus is ready to be born? How does labor start?
The start of labor is a complex process involving hormones and signals between the mother and the fetus. The fetus actually plays a part in triggering labor. It releases hormones that let the mother's body know it's time.
So the baby's like, hey, I'm ready.
You could say that. And the mother's body responds by releasing hormones like oxytocin, which causes strong contractions of the uterus. These contractions help dilate the cervix, the opening of the uterus, and ultimately push the baby out through the birth canal.
It's teamwork. Both mother and baby working together to bring new life into the world. It's truly amazing how our bodies work.
It really shows the power of evolution, the resilience of the human body, and the incredible beauty of the reproductive process.
Wow, we've really explored a lot about human reproduction, haven't we? From those intricate hormones to the incredible journey of the sperm, and then that mind-boggling fetal development. It's just awesome how new life is created.
Truly. Every single step, from the very beginning when those gametes are formed to that moment of birth, it's just packed with complexity and efficiency. It really shows you the power of evolution and how ingenious biological systems are.
And we didn't even touch on what happens after birth. There's so much more to talk about with lactation. producing that breast milk, which is another way the body nourishes and protects a newborn.
Oh, you're so right. Lactation is a fascinating process. It's all driven by this complex interplay of hormones, especially one called prolactin. That first milk, colostrum, is incredible. It's like a superpower packed with antibodies that give a baby crucial immune support.
Nature's perfect first food, right?
Mm.
But, thinking about all these things that have to go just right, how is human reproduction so successful? I mean, look how many of us there are on the planet.
That's a great point. It really highlights how resilient and adaptable the human reproductive system is. Even though it's so complex, it's also incredibly robust. Our species has evolved these mechanisms to overcome all sorts of challenges and make sure we keep going.
It's mind-blowing to think about all the humans who have been born, each one of them a result of this intricate, perfectly tuned process. It makes you appreciate the interconnectedness of life and how powerful biology is.
Absolutely. It shows us how important it is to understand our own reproductive systems. Knowledge is power, and when it comes to something as basic as reproduction, that knowledge helps us make good decisions about our health and our futures.
So true. As we wrap up this deep dive into human reproduction, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought. We've explored all these biological marvels, the intricate processes, the evolutionary adaptations that make the creation of new life possible. But beyond all the science, there's this profound sense of wonder that comes from understanding this fundamental part of what makes us human.
Couldn't agree more. Human reproduction really shows us the beauty and complexity of life. It's a story that keeps unfolding with every new generation, and it's definitely a journey worth exploring and appreciating.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of human reproduction. We hope you've come away with a deeper appreciation for the miracle of life and the amazing processes that make it all happen. Until next time, keep on exploring.